taking a look at lesson 8, the first thing it says is look at the code below and predict where the B sprite will appear. What will the program show? So my code says var B equals create sprite 200, 200, B dot set animation to B, BX 350, BY 350. Draw sprite. Where is the B going to show up? Yeah, sure. Or if you want to pick my A through E. So down in that spot, so middle of the screen, bottom right corner, right? All right, so that is Parker's prediction. Any other predictions?
I think we'll be somewhere, not at the top, in the middle, but like.
Okay, so I heard in the middle.
Like at the middle, but like over some.
In the middle, but over some. Okay, well let's. We have a prediction, and let's see what happens. And it was down here, ladies and gentlemen. So my question to you was pretty simple. If we look at the code, it says to create the sprite at 200, 200. This is not 200, 200. That's 350, 350. The question is why? What did we add here? Yes?
The X and Y coordinates.
Yes. So remember how we said that the whole purpose of coding with sprites was because if you're doing it independently, you have way too many things to keep track of. I can update my sprite. Originally, I created it as 200, 200, but then I updated it. And that's all we are doing here.
So if we change the X and Y coordinate to 200, 200, it's going to change to 200.
Yep. So if I change this, give me, it doesn't matter. Give me any number. Oh, you know what? It's not going to let me.
Oh, it let me.
Oh, that's because I have to reset it. My bad.
I put 200.
I don't know why it's not letting me. That's really weird.
It let me do it.
I'm going to go to my text. That way I can do it that way.
No, I'm not.
So if I change, it literally will not let me. That is so crazy. All right, cool.
Oh, yeah,
But yeah.
Mine went straight to the middle of the screen when I set it to 200, 200.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, moving on to bubble number 2. All right, sprite properties. Sprite properties keep track of all the information in your program needed to know about a sprite, such as size, location. You can change the values of these properties just like you do variables and see the results when your sprite is drawn to the screen. Do this. Run the program, see where the sprite appears, change the X and Y properties of the paintbrush to move it to the palette. All right. So I always like to turn my grid on, and I'm going to run it. So right now, we can see that my paintbrush is, right now we can see that the paintbrush is up in the upper right-hand side, and we want to bring the paintbrush down to the actual paint palette.
On the palette or just next to it?
I mean, it says on, but it says move it to the palette, so if you want to put it next to or near. All right, so what we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we need to change the location of the brush. For those of you who don't know how to do this, the reason why I like putting my grid on is because if you take your cursor and you hover it over where you want something to be, underneath the word show grid, it will now give you an approximate XY location. You see that? So if I want my paint brush to be there, that tells me X 139, Y 277. I have no idea if that's going to work properly, but it's a good place to start.
I used 150.
Okay, that might work. So I'm going to try, what did I say?
Wait, do you want it on the palette or by the palette?
Well, it says bring this paintbrush sprite to the palette.
Okay, then you should change the X coordinate on the brush to 100 and change the Y coordinate on the brush to 300 and match the palette.
I mean, that might work.
Yes.
What about 152, 246?
Again, there's a lot of different numbers that would work. But let's try the 150 and what?
246.
Well, I'm going to go with 250 because 246 is a dumb number. Reset, run, and shabam bam. There it is. All right. By the way, there are more than one correct answer for this. Like you might have used 140 and 230. That would have still worked. There's more than one way to do these. But again, what we're showing here is that we are updating the location of the brush. We're updating the location of this sprite. All right, for number 3, it says sprites have lots of properties. Check out the 2 new blocks in this activity and try them for yourself. Notice that the different sprites can use many of the same animation, but it will look different because the properties. Run the program and use rotation scale to make the first 2 notes look different. Use rotation and scale on the last 2 notes to make them look different too. So there we go. So again, if I'm looking at my code, I have note 1, note 2, note 3, note 4. I can see where I use scale and rotation for note 1. I use scale and rotation for note 2. And it's asking me to do the same thing for notes 3 and 4 to somehow change it. So I'm going to bring down my var, which is the one in the purple box where it says assign a variable. I'm going to bring, go ahead.
So you brought
the one that says x equals, where it says assign a variable. Okay. So not declare, but assign. It's the purple box under variables.
Can you just put it under line 14?
I put it on line 14 under the note 3. And in fact, because I want to change both the size and the scale, I'm going to bring 2 of them in. Okay? So now, all I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the code from line 6 and 7 or 10 and 11 to see kind of how they did it. So I'm going to go over to the sprites, and I want to update my scale and my rotation. And here's the deal with scale. If you wanted to make something bigger, give the scale a number greater than 1. If you
added a sprite?
I added in where it said sprite scale and sprite rotation in that first position.
Okay.
If you want to make something larger, for scale, you are going to use a number greater than 1. Okay? If you want to make something smaller, you're going to use a decimal. So a number smaller than 1, like 0 point something.
What did you add?
I haven't added anything yet. I just added these 2 lines of code right here. And all I did was model it after these guys. Line 10 and 11. All right.
10 and 11. Oh my God.
So I'm gonna. Do we want to make these notes larger or smaller?
And then take that one out.
Note number 3. Do I want to make it larger or smaller, guys?
Hold on. Let me read the directions.
Larger or smaller?
Is it up to us?
I feel like
Yeah, it's 100% up to you.
Probably larger. I don't know.
Well, no. These are the 2 notes that I'm adding on. So I need to change the scale and I need to change the rotation.
I
Maybe
want
smaller.
to
Smaller. How much smaller? Like half as big? Okay. So half, of course, in decimal is 0.5. And rotation, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we all know from, math that you can rotate something up to 180 degrees. And then if you wanted to go spin in the other direction, you just make it negative. So I want to spin this that way. So I guess that would be, well, no, I wanted to match the first one. So that's going to be a positive. And I'll just make it a positive 30-degree angle. All right. Reset and run. Why did it not work? Look at my code. Why didn't it work?
The scale is.
Is it the 0.5?
Look at line 14 of my code, guys. Why is it not working?
Is that a comma or is that small?
Look at line 14 of my code. Tell me why it's not working.
Cause it says Sprite and.
Because it says Sprite. I did not declare my variable or my thing. So if I change this to note 3, which is what the name of it is, reset run. Uh-oh, still not working. Why?
Because the rotation
Yeah, the
needs to be changed to note 3.
Note 3 as well. Did I spell it correctly? I don't know, because it's, there we go. Oh, no, that's note 2, my bad. And there it is. And I'm going to make this smaller again. So it got smaller, and we see that it has been rotated.
What?
Now, this is where if you can't get yours to work, you come see me.